We're live now. It's happening. I'm just going to make sure AI companion is on. Amazing. I don't usually get nervous, but for some reason I'm really nervous.
I'm not.
I think I'm really nervous because
This is it.
yeah. Yeah. Before we get into it, broadcasting. Justin,
I didn't teach you this.
Bella, you're our little. We have Justin and Bella over here being our audience. We're in live studio. Yeah, let's pop and say no. We can answer. Success! Let's pop prosecco because Justin said, "Do you want some prosecco?" I said, "No, we're recording a podcast." And then I said, "Yes, actually, I would like a prosecco to celebrate with Mum when we complete the episode because this will be the first episode of the E-Experience and also a landmark episode." A landmark episode because it will be introducing the place that I am very excited and wholeheartedly nervous to bring to the world. And then I thought, why would we pop Prosecco? Because it's done. And let's celebrate now and have a glass together. So here are some glasses I prepared earlier. Mum and my thing is that we have a Prosecco together. We have a preferred Prosecco, which is not this one, but here we are.
Second, as your dad would say, there's only bad beer and better.
Bad beer and better. Cheers, Dad. Etiquette is to pour Sally one first.
Well, actually, was it good beer and better?
Good beer and better beer? That's why
Yes,
they created
it's not
a better
bad beer.
beer. There's no such thing as bad beer. It's good beer and better beer.
Oh,
My dad loved a good 6-pack of beer
or alcohol in general.
and a packet of Benson and Hedges a day.
Special filter.
And every time he'd light a cigarette in front of us, he'd tell us, "Don't ever start smoking, then you don't have to quit."
Beers in the house of beer. The E-Experience.
I haven't revealed the name. Oh, man. I have actually, if you're watching this, I have actually spoken of this before on social media, and I was just saying to Justin that I haven't re-spoken the name this time because it felt like I wanted to wait for this moment to invoke the name, because recording this podcast with Mum and how this has come about, and we're just going to let the conversation flow. This is a very unplanned, unscripted episode because we'll get to why this episode is coming about. But I decided to Justin that I didn't want to announce House of E until we had done this podcast, not because of any other reason other than I wanted to bring the whole story together and then share the name again, not invoke the name without giving the myth of what it is and why it is and how it is and just how layered and multidimensional and how much meaning exists in all of it.
So I would say, tell me why you wanted to create an area for people to come to. Why did you make it?
And this is why we're creating this episode, because I rang Mum the other day while I was drawing, and I started telling her I was drawing in front of her and said, "Oh, I'll show you what I've been working on." And probably spent a good 45 minutes telling her all about it. And Mum said, "What'd you say, Mum?"
Okay.
Wow, this is incredible. You're amazing.
Oh, that's right. I did say that. I was amazed at how Emma's brought everything together. I thought that I've watched her over the years do certain courses, read books. I don't know what else you do, watch podcasts, be inspired by other people, and she was trying to find a way that would bring it all together that could serve as many people as possible. And she could never find that, could never all come together properly. And then when she was telling me the other day that she's got this community in mind, this house, this hall, these rooms, I just thought it was a great idea. And it's a great idea because I've done some training or some coaching, and sometimes I've felt like you learn things, you get given tools, and then you flail about, and then you get lost and you drop off. So I think what Emma's talking about creating is bringing it all together. And what really impressed me was the layers there. So you could do as little as you want to get help, or you could do as much as you liked, or you could do as much as you like.
So the original question you asked me is why did you want it to be a house, or why did you want a place people could come?
Yes,
That's
why
what-
did you?
What
Yeah.
Mum asked. I remember when I did a year and a half of an there's many layers to it, but what comes to mind that I want to grab onto is I remember when I was doing my education degree at university, it was called a Bachelor of Learning Management. And I was in my second year. I dropped out a year and a half in, didn't want to be a teacher in the education system. And we were learning, we went up to this incredible classroom up in Rockhampton, and this woman was using new or potentially alternative philosophies about how to educate children. So in a private education system, she had a classroom that people were ringing the school, asking to be on the wait list, not for the school, but for her classroom, because she had removed desks from the classroom. And she had an extremely interactive classroom. I think she was teaching grade 2s or something, grade 1, grade 2 maybe. And the results coming out of this classroom were incredible, which from an academic standpoint goes against what the system had traditionally said, which is that the more you sit a kid at a desk, you get them to do rote learning, the more they will retain and smarter the kids will be. More exams, more tests, more practice. What she was proving and fighting tooth and nail to continue to provide evidence for everyone who was questioning her to fight for and defend was that when you engage a child, when you give them context, when you give them belonging, when you give them an environment that invokes their inner self, their retention of what you then teach them is not just knowledge, but it's contextual, and it belongs somewhere, and it actually becomes a breeding ground for critical thinking. So what was happening with these kids is they were able to complete tasks that she didn't necessarily teach them how to complete, but she had given them skills that they had then germinated and grown and were brilliant. They were proving this incredible genius. So we got to go and experience this classroom, and it was as amazing as you can imagine. Simple, but amazing. It was this room you walked into and it felt. I love learning. I loved school because I loved the electricity. I felt an electric energy at school because I was obsessed with this idea that I just hadn't learned it yet, and that there was always more to learn, and that there was always more that I could learn, and that there wasn't a problem that couldn't be solved, because if you had the problem, then you could find a solution by learning more. That was my natural disposition. That wasn't something that was taught to me. That was just
Yeah, I didn't teach you that.
Yeah, it was this knowing in me. It was just this love of learning and what could be learned and what I hadn't learned yet. So I walked away from that classroom and just thought, wow, it's not about what you can teach someone, it's about how you can teach them. And that I always remembered that if I could create the right environment, the learning would happen. part of going to that classroom was we learnt about, or I went on to go and learn about, or it got mentioned around me, something about the Dalai Lama Center. I want to say it was in Canada somewhere, where they were funding a school, or it was already happening, where the main philosophy is that they would teach to the heart first. And that the principle was that if you engage the heart, then learning will happen. Same thing. If you create an environment of belonging, if you create an environment that a person feels safe in, if you create an environment that invokes their inner spirit, the natural essence of a human being that is safe, that knows belonging, that feels like there is a structure holding them while they open, will experience genius, will learn, will make connections, will surprise you with how much knowledge they have that you actually don't need to force into them, and also how little you need to teach them for it to germinate and become something. My mum's about to turn her phone on silent because it just went off. So the House of E really was devised from, if I could just create the place. So that's what started the seed for me of the environment. Doesn't mean more than what you put in it, but that it matters how you set that environment. Because then what you put in it has somewhere to go for people. It holds them.
But what I've heard over the years, being with mum and having hundreds of chats, is that you wanted to create somewhere that people were held and supported no matter what stage of their journey they were on. So instead of creating or giving people even context, or even giving people information, and then for them to leave your course or leave what you've done, you wanted to support them in a what, give them the opportunity to be supported, but also use the tools to help look after themselves and not be dependent on somebody to tell them what to think and what to do. So yeah, well, that's how I've seen you wanting to pull things together as well.
Yeah, because I'm obsessed with learning, so I want people to learn. But then with everything that happened with Dad, there's also that part under me that after he committed suicide, and I was always reflecting, as you do, as you will experience too. I mean, this podcast is going to be titled Hey Dad, because this is, and we will get to that part. I feel it's naturally getting there. But this podcast was invited by Mum as an idea that I had just told her all about this, the whole dream, the whole vision, that
How you're pulling it together, rather.
yeah, the heart of it all.
You've already had all these ideas thrown around, but how you finally decided, like, enough's enough, I'm going to actually action this, and you gave yourself time to sit with it. And I was impressed with how you've pulled it all together. I was impressed how the depth that you've thought of, the community you want to create.
Gathering.
The gathering.
It's
yes.
not, yeah. And I use that word because I read a book, Priya Parker, The Art of Gathering, and she talks a lot about the fact that anyone can get a group of people in a space, but the next layer is that the art to creating a gathering that actually changes people is that it has intention, and that it excludes something. If it doesn't exclude something, then it doesn't create inclusion.
What does that mean?
So the idea, so what Mum was saying before, she mentioned the hall, within the House of E, there are all these, so I want to complete something first before we go to that. So the reason I wanted a place that people could come, no matter what, like it's not, so it is about my love of learning, because I think that people are struggling only because there's something they haven't learned yet. That is my absolute centered truth, that there is no such thing as a dead end, that every dead end can become a doorway, because you just haven't learned what you need to know yet for that to turn into a doorway. I don't believe there is, and I feel emotion with that. I do not believe in dead ends. So then why the place matters is because when Dad killed himself, the recurring thought kept being, I wish he could have done anything. He could have ran away, left us all. And we have context now that we lost him completely, but at least he would have been alive and we could have dealt with the pieces of that because he would have come back. Then when I was a person who was struggling, because being a survivor of suicide as mum who has her own experience, it's fucked. It's so hard. It opened up a total valley of despair, grief, pain, everything all at once. And all I remember thinking so many times is I just wish I could get away. I just wanted to get away because everywhere I looked in the life I was living no longer fit me because everything about me had changed. And I wanted to get away somewhere where I wasn't reflected, how nothing felt the same anymore. So this idea of a place is that if it attests to this part of me that always had this feeling that I needed to get away to come home. That I went and started traveling internationally. I was doing retreats. I would ring mum as a 21-year-old girl living in Gladstone, and I would say, "What are you doing?" She's living in Agnes, an hour and a half away. And I'd be in my uniform, I'd be meant to go into work, and I would just have so much welling inside me that I couldn't function in the life I was living. I just needed to get away. And I just had to get in a car and I had to drive away because that's what I needed to do to be able to come home. So that is what informs for me having this place that people can go. That's not just an online membership that you just log in and now you're in the login portal. It feels like you're actually getting away somewhere, but it doesn't require you to get in a car and leave your life. It doesn't require you to end your life like my dad did. It means you have a place you can go in the middle of the night, no matter where you are, that will receive you exactly as you are. And then there's all these places within that will meet you no matter where you are. So if you are, for example, my dad, who is emotionally not okay and isn't aspiring, he's not looking for growth, he's not thinking this isn't the life I want anymore and I'm feeling good about doing something, he's in wreckage. He can take himself to the hearth and he can sit in a circle of people who are sharing about their hearts, their feelings, and he can know connection and he can know belonging and he can just simply say, I'm not okay. And that's okay, and that would be received. Or I was saying to mum, also within the House of E is a place called the Story Shed. And the idea of that is that travellers who come to House of E will get the opportunity, if they want to share a part of their story, or to share their story in overview, or to share something that they struggled through and overcame, and leave that legacy and that mark of them and their story in the Story Shed. So if Dad turned up in the middle of the night into this group, or at 1 o'clock that day, or whatever, 4 o'clock of that day, whatever time it was, he could have logged in, signed up, got his keys to House of E, and he could have just got into the Story Shed and just listened to stories of people that weren't okay and found a way through. Because sometimes learning is not actually learning something, it's just learning through others that they've been in that situation and it didn't have to end there because it was shit. And you don't have to be told it didn't end there. You don't have to be taught that. You realize that by listening to a story. Also, I remember my sister-in-law having 3 kids really quickly, and I remember her sharing with me how much she was struggling because she wanted to become someone again. She wanted to go back out into the world, and she was chasing change because she was excited to be something more, but she just didn't know where to begin because she'd been a mum for so long and she didn't have any skills. And I remember thinking, imagine if there was a place she could go where she could grow and she could learn some new skills, and she could do it from home with her 3 kids around her, but feel like she's a part of people, and it doesn't require her to go away to do it and train and be away from her kids and put them in daycare, but it can feel like from home she could step into this world that could grow her and empower her. And that's why there's the Great Hall in the House of E, which is a place of learning, of becoming, of possibility, of learning something you haven't learned yet. And it's, as you imagine, a big great hall that you can be in. Yeah, let's kind of stop there.
I was trying to think of our conversation we had the other day, and questions that I've just asked you that led you to create the different areas. Do you want to talk about the different areas in that, or do you want to talk about your dad and why a little bit more about, do you just want to like tell your dad what you're achieving rather than about what you want to do? Do you want to just say, tell your dad why it's important, like to your dad?
Hey Dad, you fucked me up, but you set me free. And I can't wait to bring this place to the world, because as much as it feels like it's the residue of reforming myself because of my pain, which is something I've spoken to Justin about a lot, that there was a part of me that really struggled with this idea of me becoming a coach and supporting people, because it felt like I've created an entire identity and I'm going to pursue an identity based on my trauma. Like, I wonder who I would have been if I didn't make who I am, and then what I have to do in the world and for people based on this thing that totally rolled my life. But House of E doesn't feel like. It doesn't feel like I'm creating a legacy based on my pain. It feels like this is who I was always meant to be and what I was always meant to create. Because when I think about this place, I think, yeah, it's a place to get away, and it's a place that at your worst, come as you are, and we will love you. I will love you. I have woven it into the fabric of every hand drawing I've created, of every place within this, the intention, the layering of the name, the layering of the numerology, the layering of the timing, to the date that I'm opening the doors of this house for you. But it's also me before all of this, because I loved learning and I loved community and I loved the idea that I could become someone who was willing to get out of bed at the crack of dawn every Anzac Day from when I was really young and make my mum take me to dawn services, because and turn up on weekends to volunteer for things and do every extracurricular activity I could, because I wanted the school community that I was in to trust that I was willing to do whatever I needed to do to lead them, to support them, to give up my time, to make sure that I could be a part of making our community a better place. I stepped into high school, and for 5 years, I had my heart set on the fact that I wanted to be school captain. And not because I wanted to be the leader, but because I had it set in my heart that I will spend the next 4 years proving. 4 years as a teenage girl, I will spend the next 4 years showing this community that I will be a person who will show up for it. Not just get to the time that I can apply to be a school captain or school leader and say, oh yeah, I just decided I wanted to do it now. For 4 years, I went to all the dawn services before I needed to show that I would be willing to be a representative of our school community before anyone needed me to, anyone asked me to. I did all the extracurricular activities, from sporting to debating to, well, actually, take that back. I did not do debating because I decided that in high school I was not going to be
It's not cool enough.
struggled with tall poppy the way I had in primary school. But I have always had a heart inside me that wanted to make a place that people wanted to come, and I wanted to make it better for them, and I wanted people to get how beautiful it can be to be together.
So if you were telling Dad this, it could be like, hey Dad, I've done this.
Hey Dad, you
Inside
didn't
of
break
you.
me, you made me.
Yeah.
And as much as it hurt, and I have spent 20 years this year, 2 fucking decades, reimagining who I am, rebuilding myself, putting myself back together, making myself entirely new. It all has, and I've missed him, and it is all exactly who I'm meant to be, and it's put me exactly where I'm meant to be. And now I feel so deeply rooted in what House of E can be for the world. The world. That is the scale of what I know this place can be. Because I have such a range of emotion that I've experienced of experiences that I've experienced, of people that I've met, of what I can hold and what the house can hold because of what I can hold. And that is why within the House of E, there are so many places, because I am a woman over the last 20 years who has walked all different. So it's a sanctuary for your next evolution. And the reason I say for your next evolution, because the saying that goes with that is the evolution you're choosing or the evolution that's choosing you. Sometimes life will just smack you with a sledgehammer and you're in picking up the pieces or learning to swim so you don't sink. And sometimes the whole midlife crisis idea, you wake up and you think, this isn't it. I can't be this person anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And I want that whole spectrum of people to have a place they can go. And I have been that whole range and in between as a woman. I have been the one that was this 14-year-old girl that had been everything in her life changed, to being a woman who thinks she knows who she is and waking up one day and not being that woman and needing to change. I have been a woman who was absolutely loved her life but wanted to tweak things, and just little ways, just wished I could have a space just to share about how I'm feeling, not really big growth, but just little growth. Then I have been a woman who only a few years ago, if people followed me on Instagram, I broke up with the love of my life and separated my family and thought I had a dream of what I wanted my life to be, and it didn't look that way and it didn't turn out that way. So I needed to, like, this isn't it. This all needs to change. And then I left who is now my husband, and we went through a big portal, and I needed this space then. Even with all of my self-development, I needed this space.
I think from what I've observed is there are so many different facets to learning. And we have had this discussion before, and I brought it up before, was that we get given so many tools, whether directly or indirectly, and sometimes we just need a soft spot to land. And what we've discussed is that although you might do a course with this person somewhere, this person somewhere else, to read this book, there was no community that was there for everything. So what I've imagined and what you explained to me the other day was that what you're creating is a gathering of people, and it doesn't mean you've got to do courses with you. It doesn't mean you've got to be on a big journey or discovery, or you can be. So what impressed me the most was, because I've done some self development and had a little bit of coaching and a lot of coaching by you, but was that sometimes I needed a place to be held, but not necessarily by the person in that course,
And not necessarily the mentor.
Yeah, not necessarily the mentor. But even if you were, I think you also mentioned, what I liked was that you would have guest speakers and you would have other people who are passionate about caring for people in those spaces. So although it's your house or your gathering or your community or your map, other people can also be in there sharing their value. So the thing that I liked about it was that it was like bringing other people up and, spiraling up rather than just one person growing up. It was like everyone could do it together. There was the opportunity for there's no competition there. So when it come down to pulling everything together that you've learned, you can do it in a safe space. You say it so well. For me, I get the feeling that it felt like a safe space and accessible.
Yeah. So
and able to be traversed or able to be navigated. So that's what impressed me when you were telling me about it the other day. And like you said, because of Dad snapped you out of what you were in when you were 12 or 13, and you had to reevaluate everything. You didn't need to. You could have gone off the rails and not self-reflected and not had coaching, but you chose to, like you said before, unpack yourself, split yourself open, pick yourself up and put all the pieces back together and consciously form who you are. you made a conscious decision, and that conscious decision now is like you want to help other people. So that is awesome.
I was just listening to you speak then and I was thinking, yeah, this podcast is called Hey Dad. But it's also Hey Mom. It's also Hey Mom because Mom and I were having a conversation last year around my birthday, whenever it was.
What about?
And I was
We've
saying
had
to Mum
conversation.
that because Mum just said that I unpacked myself, I decided consciously to remake myself and decide that everything I've been through could make me more. It could be okay. Like I could suffer it, I could struggle, but it didn't have to be a suffering I lived in and stayed with. It could be something that I could refine, that I could harness, that I could transform, alchemize, as people would say, and let it make me happy again. Or not happy. I don't love the word happy, but to feel no joy and love again. Just wholeness, wholesomeness. And I was saying to Mum that I'm so grateful that the police officers enforced us to get counselling after our big trauma. This is a story I told since I was 14 years old, that they had said because of the severity of the trauma we've been through, capital T, major trauma at home for a murder, basically, it's what suicide is, that we needed to go through 3 mandatory counselling sessions. And I knew Mum had got those counselling sessions and that my uncle had been involved in Rio Tinto had paid for them for us. QAL had paid for them for us as extended to our family that they would financially support us because of our tragedy and or whatever the requirements were. Let's just say that. And I was telling Mum this and I was saying it was the greatest anchoring for me in that moment because what that did to my brain, potentially because of my own natural disposition, was realize that no matter the tragedy, no matter the flood, there's always a life raft. Because the thing that it wired in me was that I was told you will not be okay, so you will get help. Not, well, wait till you're not okay, and then you'll have to try and figure out how to ask for help. It felt like something like the police, my story was that because the police enforced it, it forced me and made me not be allowed to say, no, I'm okay, because I had to go and sit these sessions. And then in sitting these sessions, I realized I'm not okay, but I had this safe person who knew how to be with all of that, who didn't make it mean anything, who held safe space, who listened to me, who gave me these little tools at the right moment. And I realized, holy fuck, like I'm not okay, but there's a way I can be okay because there are safe people and there are safe places like the House of E where you can be held in the rawness of all this emotion and it's received. Doesn't make you fucking crazy. It doesn't make something wrong with you. It just makes you a human being who's having feelings because you're not okay. But you're gonna be okay. And I believe in that. And that's what this space is about. And I was telling Mum this, and Mum said, what do you mean the police enforced or something along these lines? And she said, I organise this for you and your brother. Or for us. And it took me a minute and I started bawling my eyes out and I just said, of course. Of course it was you. Because when I just said, yeah, it's hey dad, guess what? Like, let me catch you up on what's happened in the last 20 years. Let me catch you up on the woman I am right now. I'm turning 34 in April. I have my incredibly supportive, beautiful husband who is just off here to the side of the screen, who has been laying on the ground listening to this, who helped me set up and laugh and talk and cooked us dinner and bought us prosecco to support this. I have my beautiful, amazing, fucking world-changing daughter laying on the mat over here to my right, who has been listening intently this entire time, supporting me. And I have this woman who has believed in me every single day since the day I was born, who, hey, Mum, I'm here because, yes, because of Dad, but because of you too. And this is a conversation too. Hey, my parents, look what you created. Thank you. Thank you for raising me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you, Dad, for loving me. Because I honestly believe that as much as it was his path, And hey, Dad, I'm really sorry that you couldn't find a way to be here because you really missed out on some incredible people. And thank you for not being here because you've also made some incredible people in your wake, because nothing in our life has to be a reason that we're less. And I have been made more by it. I believe Mum has been made more by it, because when Mum was just saying that she did self-development, I saw my mum decide to go to retreats and get help and to learn and to grow and to have these conscious conversations about. I remember sitting in our house on Longer Dam Road and Mum was using the sentence of "I feel." I remember that statement, and now I laugh, and in my coaching world, I will say to people that that's a really entry level place to be, because that, as much as it's a beautiful stepping stone towards better conversations, because there is a level of ownership. When we're saying "I feel ... because you did ... we're still saying it's about the other person. But I remember my mum sharing that with me, giving me those statements when I was only 17 years old, having these conversations with me about how you feel. Like, it wasn't, we don't talk about feelings. It was like, we do talk about feelings. And Mum, the greatest gift my mum ever gave me, hey Mum, the greatest gift you've ever given me, other than showing me that, as I was saying earlier, without ever telling me that a woman is capable, because I watched my mum not just be a capable woman after my dad died because she had to be and there wasn't a man, but my mum was a capable woman because she was a capable woman prior to my dad dying. My mum helped run 4 acres of property, and every bloody dream my dad dreamed up to make money and to try to serve people, and he was always wanting to evolve, he was always wanting to explore and expand and try something new and get a breakthrough in some area of his life. Mum was always right there alongside him, fucking helping him. My parents. This is about the house of Eve. We will get there, and we will get there, because I said this could be a really long conversation. But my parents put in a 2 acres worth of passion fruit vines because my dad wanted to sell passion fruits. So what did this incredible woman do? Get out there with my dad and us kids shirtless, have photos of us shirtless in these little board shorts, and run all these wires, and
My dad helped.
and Mum's dad, granddad helped, and trellis up all these passion fruit vines, and then we grew them, and I think we harvested some of them, and I don't even know how many years.
Didn't last very long.
I don't know how long it lasted for, but Dad had all these great ideas. We also dug a red claw dam thing. Dad was going to grow red claw and sell them. Dad did parsley, and Dad would be off working doing shutdowns, and Mum would be cutting the parsley and taking it into Gladstone and trying to sell it to the restaurants or something.
To the fruit and veg shop.
Fruit and veg shops. And so Dad was always doing all these things, but Mum was a capable woman. And the other thing my mum showed me is the greatest gift, is that she's a human. Mum showed me her humanity. And that is the point of what people will get to experience in House of E, is there is no shame in our humanity, and that actually our world needs to remember that. So there is an essence of having a place to go where your humanity is welcomed, because your humanity,
And warts and all.
yeah, is wholeness.
And you don't have to be perfect.
And I say this to the women that I get, and this is the most exciting part of House of E, is that I'm not going to just be serving women anymore. House of E will be opening its doors to every adult over 18 years old. 18 years old for now because of legalities and because of making sure people are old enough to be in that capacity. But I would love to also extend some spaces to teens to give them a space, because that's something I've been asked about from parents. But it'll be to everyone, because man or woman, we're struggling with this inner world inside us where we're wrestling with our humanity, because we've been told a story, or we've believed a story inside our head that only versions of us are lovable, only parts of us are lovable, and that we've got to turn up with some form of polishness or some form of outcome that we're pretending we're going to get to, instead of just our wholeness, because we will always be whole. We will always be this whole range of us.
And as your mum, I've watched you struggling to get things perfect before you release it. I am guilty of it myself, where I have this idea and I think the end result has to be straight after I've had the idea. So what I was seeing with you is that although you had all these ideas, you thought you had to be perfect at everything to deliver it to people. But the other day you had this awareness or this reckoning or this, you recognize that you could just bring it how it is and work from that. And that's the basis of it, is you want to actually help people, not talk about it.
Yeah, because, so this is the part. Because to create this space, this online world, so House of E, it's a sanctuary for your evolution. It's a place you can go, but it is online. It is an online place. So to create an online place, to create a system, I have let it stop me that it needs to look perfect, visually pleasing, and needs to be this perfect technological, graphic, color-coded, stunning space. And the reality of that as a skill set for me, it's not my skill set. I would have to outsource that. So what's got in the way, what's been my block for so long, my major obstacle is, how am I going to fund this before I've even begun this? How do I open this, my heart to the world without paying tens of thousands of dollars? Because 3 years ago, I brought in one of my friends to help me, and she did, and we dreamed this up, and we've got pictures of that to show of us doing it, and went to a web designer, and they were like, it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars to create what I create from a graphic perspective. So I didn't do it. And I decided, you know what? I can use a pencil and I can draw this. And not because it will look perfect, but because I'm tired of knowing the world needs this, knowing there are people like you potentially listening who need this place they can go, that can take them as they are, that can meet them where they're at, that is a place that everything fits under its roof, but also that is targeted too. Because that's the other thing, is that I've done courses because there has been a specific thing like business I've wanted to learn about. But I also understand that business is a reflection of you. So you need to do self-development too. So there's probably, you need actually some space for the human to be held. But then I paid for a business coaching course, and then I've got to try and find somewhere to go and get my human held, because that's not what the space is for. This is about business. And then I have in the past needed self-development help. I've known it's emotional and human, and I've needed that. But then that space has felt like it's just keeping me in the feelings. And where's the space that's saying, okay, this can become refined and this can mean something. And now you can learn some business skills and you can do something with that, or you can use some professional skills. So this is why within House of E, and where I'm talking about what I had to draw, is I want these buildings, these places within House of E, so that you pay one membership and it is everything, but it's also not diluted because it's everything, because then it's also something. So you could sign up to House of E and you could just attend the Great Hall. You could sign up because you watch this podcast and you see my social media in 5 years or whatever time, and you go, I really want to do a Gene Keys journey. I want to know what my purpose is, what my service is to the world. I want to break through in my prosperity. I want to go and learn in the Great Hall, and I want to go attend the Gene Keys Courtyard, which is another place I've got, a place of gathering. So I'm going to sign up to use it for that. But all of you is welcome. So if you start that journey and then you realize, oh, actually, I've got this stuff, my inner child, this inner work I've got to do, you've got the heart. You don't have to go and find this other space, but you also can be really intentional about what part of it, an aspect of it, you use it. So within the House of E, what Mama talked about, is the Great Hall, which I already talked about before. It's the place of wonder. And yes, absolutely, you get to imagine the Great Hall from Harry Potter of Hogwarts with Dumbledore in it, with all the floating candles, because I do every time, because that's the magic. So it's a place you walk into. For me, I smell a pencil, I see books, and I think the world's my oyster. Stationery, put me in a stationery store, that's what I imagine when I think of Great Hall. That's the concept. You can learn there what you haven't learned yet. And then you've got the heart, which is where you can go and feel, where you can be held. Like I was that 14-year-old girl who went to that counselor's room and she just said, what do you want to talk about? I don't know, Mum went to the counselor too, and I know it was pivotal for you to have a place to go to share. So to me, the hearth is that safe space. It is decentralized, like Mum was talking about. It's not about me, because my vision for this space is that it won't just be me that continues to hold this energy. People who come in as guests might decide to stay, and like Mum laughed the other day and say, like, sign a lease. I was calling it become residents, so they can commit to having a longer term there. And then part of that residency can be that they actually can choose if it feels what they want to do, to actually start to extend themselves and give back to the community of House of E, so they can start to hold the heart space, not just me, or they can do a teaching in the Great Hall that they can bring of something that they know, love, and are passionate about, that they can teach people. Also, there's going to be the studio, which is bringing in the breath work that my husband and I, Justin, have recently become obsessed with, but I have been doing for a decade. I've been involved in breath work myself. So we're going to bring that aspect of healing and wholeness to people, where it's not just about feeling your feelings or having to grow, but just learning how to breathe better.
And I think you said that was going to be like a live weekly thing. So although like taking a bird's eye view rather than specifics, you're imagining having interactive weekly events. You're looking at having walls posted or stories posted so people can browse at their own pace. You're talking about other people coming in. You're talking about a couple of different services, like you mentioned breath work, but you also do Gene Keys readings or bringing, what was the elements you said the other day, like the 5 elements or the ease, the ether, no, not the ether. You're talking about
Elements.
well, not.
I was talking about physiology, psychology, and mythology.
Yeah.
The trinary of energy.
Yeah, so you're bringing 3 levels of stuff of learnings into this space, so it's going to cater for people of all different beliefs and how people different learning styles. So to me, listening to you share that about your vision was really it was really special. It was, I could actually visualize it. I could see it. I can see how it could be beneficial.
See, because it's a house and it's a place, but also the idea of the title of House of E is that on Game of Thrones there's House Stark, and House Stark is this idea that he's the overseeing lord of a village, Winterfell. So House of E is this idea that this is actually a village, and it is multidimensional. And just like in a village, there's stuff happening at night, there's stuff happening during the day, there's times of downtime. So this idea of what Mum just said about the 3 energies I was talking about is this idea of our body, our mind, our spirit, what I refer to as our physiology, our psychology. So our physiology is our body keeps a score. It's who we are. It's our survival. It's what it acts for us without us thinking about it. We don't have consciousness of the heart, the lungs, the breath. What we have breath. Then our psychology is what we think about, how we think, what we think about, how we feel, that inner world, the cycling, the who we want to be, who we think we are, when our body might be telling a different story. And then we've got our mythology, and the idea of the mythology is what I'm really sharing with you, and what I shared with you the other day is the mythology of House of E. So House of E has all 3 of these layers. It's got places that you come and you meet the body. It's got places that you come and you learn about your mind and your psychology. And then it's got this myth that holds you. It's got this myth that it invites you into, which is this idea that everything is telling a story, and you get to choose the essence of the story and the emanation of that story. And at all these different places within the House of E, you step into that energy, because you can either be in your cottage. Thank you to my beautiful people and community on my Instagram who voted. You all voted that the place that would be comfy, that would make you feel like home and where you want to stay, is a cottage. So you get your key to your cottage in the House of E, and you can just stay within your cottage. When you sign it and you enter, you turn the lock and you come into House of E, you could just stay in your cottage, because within your cottage there will be a room service menu for you to be able to organise extra one-on-one if you don't feel ready yet to go into a group setting in the heart. You can say, I need one-on-one support, and we can work out a way to get that for you. If it's not me, it can be whoever else I bring into the team. So you can say, I need one-on-one, and we can take you into a one-on-one session in the heart. Still in the heart, because everything about the energy of this is, it's a place that holds you, and depending on what you're doing, you will go into that space. You won't just go into a Zoom room to have a one-on-one to get some coaching. You'll meet in the heart, and you will have an experience in the heart, and it will change you. So from your cottage, you could just stay there, and this is just self. It's just you. There'll be reflection questions uploaded up in there. There'll be You can upload your story that will get entered into the story shed. You can let me know and let the House of E team know when we're going to have a House of E team that maybe you would like to be able to do a teaching in the Great Hall, that you want to actually start to contribute. So you can upload those desires, and that's a place where you can really just be yourself and also share about what you would love and what you'd love to get out of the space. Then you can take a step further and you can start to actually be in House of E. So you still don't have to interact with any of the other people there. You can just use the facilities, go to all the different places use them for whatever you want. And there's no expectation that you have to actually, like if you went to a resort, just because you're a paying guest at the resort doesn't mean you've got to talk to the other guests. You can just go, use the sauna, use the restaurant, use the pool as you want to, and then go back to your room. And there's no expectation that you've signed up to this, you have to engage, or you're not contributing. It's like, you're here. That's awesome. You can just be here and you can know you're a part of something. Because that's what...
And you're not alone.
Yeah, that's what so much of the feeling of going through growth and going through self-development and self-discovery and this inhabiting yourself and taking up room in your own body so often is that you tell the story that no one else is going through what you're going through. That something about you is isolated, that something about you is wrong, and that not like you have the problem and other people will have this problem. So you can go and be doing all of this amongst people without having to feel like you have to contribute into the space. And then there's the trinary energy stepping into the myth space, so from self into community. Then you can choose to be an active contribution in the space. You can go and show up in the hearth, and you can share, and you can also express to the team of House of E that'll be there, being the guardians of the space, that you want to help support, you want to volunteer in some way, you want to make friends with it. There will be eventually, not straight away because of tech and me allowing myself to start where I'm at. The vision is that there will be an active community that comes with House of E too. So if you choose to want to be engaged, you can get into that community. You can volunteer in being a community leader within there, but also you can just go in there and say, I want to make real friends. This is the idea, is that yes, it's online, but I want online and offline to blur. My vision and what I know will happen is online and offline will blur. And what I want to see happen, and what I will lead happen, what I will encourage to happen, is that just like you go to a resort and you run into someone you really like and you notice them and you talk to them, you find yourself at the pool with them a lot, you find yourself in a great hearth together and you see them on the screen, but you're in the great hall, or you're in the hearth, or you're in the workshop, or you're in the courtyard, and you really notice them and you notice you love what they say, that you actually message that person and say, I'd actually love to chat with you, and you create a real friendship. It's not that I've been in groups where there's a bit of an ownership of keep it all in the group, talk in the group, build, because the energy has been that the mentor needs the feedback that people are, that they're doing something, that the group's active, because that makes them feel like they're doing a good job. And there is really an energy in this for me that it's not about me. It is really about the people that come. So even though it's called House of E, and Mum was saying this about the E words before, it's called House of E, which, yes, I am Emma, and it could be that the E is associated with me, but it's only as far as not ownership, it's just stewardship. Yeah, I am the visionary of this space for you all, but it's not the House of Emma, it's the House of E, which gives a nod to the fact that I am the person who is stewarding this House of E and who will be making sure it's running and making sure it's upkept and looking after this space for you all with tender love, care, and heart. But it's more than that. It's empowerment, it's embodiment, it's evolution, as it says, sanctuary evolution. It's energy, it's essence, it's so much of these words that I ran into on my journey of evolution that keep coming back to being E. And then when I look into, and I feel like the energy's kind of wound up here, and I haven't really introduced everything, but I will have to do a really succinct podcast potentially with Mum again, or with whatever. But it's just, there's so many layers, and maybe if you've listened this far, I could keep sharing how many layers and how much thought goes into this.
So when you're talking, I'm obviously listening, but I'm also thinking,
Yeah.
is that I know you've talked about Brené Brown as being one of your great inspirational speakers. You've talked about and you do gene keys.
Yeah.
And you also are doing breath work.
Mhm.
So tell me, like, what about Brené Brown talks to you or talked to you at some stage of your learning or your growth?
One day someone said to me, have you watched the YouTube Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown? And I said, who's Brené Brown? That was my answer.
I think I said the same when you told me about
Yeah.
Brené Brown.
And she said, oh, you need to watch the Power of Vulnerability. And I watched that podcast, or that YouTube. I think I've recommended it to so many people. At one point, I could tell you how many minutes and
Is that
seconds
the
it
TED?
was.
Is that the TED talk?
Her TED talk she did. And I thought, that is humanity summed up. That is the language for everything that I know in my being about what it means to have totality.
And then with Gene Key, sorry, did you want to say more?
Yeah, so then I was already doing mindset. I was already doing emotional intelligence. I was living in this psychological form of coaching where I was learning about how I think, how I feel, about my inner child, about vulnerability, about courage, about shame. And then I came across in 2018, I was in a group and I was doing spirituality. I'd been to India, I'd been on retreats, and then I was in this group, and this woman said to me, have you heard of Gene Keys? You know how there's these moments in your life that stand out as like that one, Power of Vulnerability, then there's have you heard of Gene Keys? And I went, what's Gene Keys? Who's Richard Rudd? She sent me some information. I went, this is garbled but I can't look away. I've got to figure this out. And that began my journey with Gene Keys, which has now been, I'm going on 8 years this year, contemplating Gene Keys. And I fell in love with Gene Keys because it's so beautifully tied in everything I'd been learning from a psychology aspect about emotional and spirituality. I've been in India and I'd learned about the Bhagavad Gitas and I learned about the Sanskrit, and I had been exposed to religion and God and Jesus because of my upbringing, because I've been to church with my aunties and cousins, and mum had taken us when we were kids. So this Gene Keys was this next step, this mythology, as I say, of the trinary, where it kept talking about this bigger picture, this collectiveness. It brought in this hope in the darkness, this idea that in every shadow is a gift. I had been existing in this world of trying to deal with the shadow, the pain that I've been feeling. But then Gene Keys gave me this, in that shadow, there's a gift. The point is a return to light. The point is that it's leading you into your highest expression. But it always kept saying that we experience our highest expression by being honest about our lowest expression, not about bypassing it, not about denying it, not about trying to enlighten ourselves out of it, but by being really whole and human about it and choosing in that humanity when it could be, quote unquote, easier to just keep our patterns and treat people poorly because we're hurting, but to choose not to, and just to do that one time out of 20 in a day. So Gene Keys became this incredible mythology that I loved. And then I was reading Gene Keys for 8 years, and it kept mentioning breath. It keeps mentioning the body. It keeps mentioning that our path is not to pretend like our body doesn't exist. Our path always is to come into our body. It's to inhabit ourselves. It's to sit so deeply. I have a client that said, you changed my life. She'd been in professional development for a decade. She said, you changed my life because you said to me, sink in. I had lived a decade trying to be my higher self. Like I felt like I was always having to reach for something. You said to me, sink in. And for a while, it was really uncomfortable because sinking in was meeting all these parts of myself. She said, then eventually, it was like one day I sat in, and I'm going to say like on the throne of my heart, I sat into myself, and I realized that everything I thought I was reaching for out there, I found in here.
Wow.
Here. Inside me, and I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to go outside of myself. I don't have to keep putting this energy outside of me. I found all that greatness, but of that feeling, that peace, that hope, that light, that enlightenment, I found it when I sat inside myself.
So does that come from
So-
your converting what you've learned
From
Gene
Gene Keys,
Keys.
and which is why then I felt really inspired to want to go and do this final piece, I say, before I bought the house and be alive. And I feel like the perfection of a decade in the making, or a decade in the dreaming, 4.5 years in the making, is I didn't have this
thing that tied it
third
together?
energy, which is the physiology piece. I have known about the nervous system. I have understood breath work or known about breath work for a decade, but going and doing this breathwork certification to really tie it all together and doing it with my husband, with Just, was the piece of the puzzle, because now, as much as House of E is mine, we're a team, and this energy, Justin will be facilitating. In the studio, we're going to be running, as Mum said earlier, weekly breath works for you to come in and sink in and sit in your body. So this third energy probably digressed here, but I'm bringing it together with, now we have the physiology piece. So your body, your mind, your soul, your physiology, psychology, mythology, it's all within the House of E. This energy,
It's not like one dimensional, it's not even two.
it's everything,
It's everything.
which is E, the House of E.
E.
It's the house of, yeah, it's the house of everything without being nothing, because there's all these places that bring the potency back to something. Because if you exclude no one, then no one's invited. To truly invite people, you've got to exclude people. So the exclusion from House of E, the saying I constantly quote to myself, because I didn't like the idea that the House of E had walls, because I felt like it keeps people out. But the creed in my head is, we have walls not to keep you out, but to welcome you in.
And to keep you safe.
To welcome you in.
To hold you.
If we don't have walls,
Yeah.
then everyone is welcome, which means no one feels safe.
Mhm.
The walls are the doorway, that the exclusion for House of E is that when you decide to pay to stay, to get your key to enter, you're deciding that you are a person
And
who
that
is
you're worth it.
evolving,
And you're worth it.
that you're worth it, that you're ready. Maybe not ready because you've got some big grandness about you, but you agree to walk through the door into the House of E as all of who you are, exactly as you are, with an openness to become whoever it is you might become.
So, as your mum, and as we had that discussion the other day about like how I feel blown away by your ideas and how you bring it all together, the idea of this, or the name of this, was Hey Dad. So if we said 3 or 4 things like, hey Dad, are you proud of me? Hey Dad, what would you do if you were here today?
Hey Dad, remember how you planted this seed in me that I could be a person who was an entrepreneur?
Yep.
Hey Dad, remember how you were always starting all these businesses, and there was this part of me that thought, he's our little old man who's 12 this year, he loves grandma. Hey Dad, I'm gonna do it. It's done. You may not have had the success because you didn't have the belief in yourself. But hey Dad, I'm here. And
And I believe in you because he had that gumption to keep trying and trying
yeah, he wanted to see it
from
from me. I
when
saw
he
him.
was so young.
And I'm believed in by you. Look, you're sitting here doing a podcast. We've laughed so hard, guys. I'm sorry, I just realized I kept burping in this, but we've laughed so hard setting this up. We're in the house, we've configured this, my daughter's set this up, the husband's out, mum's here hiding behind a plant, laughing, setting this all up. That's how believed in I am. My husband's still here. He's gonna go to work tomorrow and he's still here off to the side. That I'll show you, Bella's still here asleep. I'm so believed in. And hey Dad, you were believed in. And I'm sorry that you couldn't feel it, but I do. And hey Dad, I love you. And I forgive you.
And I wish you were still here.
And I'm so glad that I have you with me. We were looking at ChatGPT before, asking some prompting questions, and the question is, how is this space here because he's not here? Like, how has House of E been formed because he's not here and because he is here all the time?
Because there's not a day goes by in your journey that he isn't part of the the reason why
the
you're
fabric of
thinking.
who I am. Like, hey, Dad, I realize you never left me. And not that that ever became an intention of what I would share with anyone today, but for anyone navigating grief right now, have they really left us if we hold them in our hearts?
Yeah, I know.
Like, they're not here in vessel, but in spirit. My dad has not left my life one day. Not 1 second of one day has he not existed. And I'm sure for mum, there's not a day that goes by that she doesn't have some form of thought about dad. And I know that all of my siblings would have that. I know how many times we have conversations about that. I know how many times I chat to like there's never been a moment that he hasn't been with us.
So hey Dad, although you're not here,
You are.
you are.
And you are woven into the bedrock of this space for the pain that your loss created and I had to navigate, and also because of the power and the essence of who you were as a man. And thank you. And I want to say I hope, but instead I'll say I know that right now you're cheersing probably with a 4X, not with a prosecco. Potentially not smoking a cigarette, because if you have the choice wherever you are, you might choose not to, but maybe you are because you realize why not fucking enjoy it. But hey, Dad, cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, Mum.
Cheers. And I bet you can't wait to share more.
That's fun. And I will put it all succinctly, but for now, that feels like a beautiful first episode. And I can't wait for everyone to listen. Thank you, Mum.
You're welcome.